Sometimes, the smallest moments ignite the biggest storms. And for me, that storm began the night I was forced into the back seat of my husband's sleek black convertible, sitting on my stepson's lap. What started as an inconvenience became the spark that changed everything. The California sun was melting into the Pacific, splashing the sky with streaks of orange and rose as we drove along the winding coastal road. Ethan Caldwell, my husband of 12 years, was behind the wheel. His jaw was tight, his Bluetooth headset blinking as he barked orders to someone on the other end of a corporate call. That was Ethan, always working, always distracted, always elsewhere. The car, his prized two-door sports convertible, had no room in the back. And yet, there I was, perched awkwardly on the lap of his 21-year-old son, Noah. My body pressed against his in a way that made my skin prickle with unease. I clutched my purse like it was a shield, my knuckles white, trying to ground myself in the midst of swirling emotions. I told myself it was just the car's design, just an awkward situation. But the truth was, it was more than that. At 38, I often felt like a faded version of myself. My auburn hair, once wild and free, was now tamed into a severe bun. My hazel eyes, which had once lit up with dreams, carried quiet resignation. Life with Ethan had chipped away at me, year after year. Our marriage had become a silent contract, meals eaten in silence, evenings spent with him glued to his phone, nights where our bedroom felt like a hotel, all routine and no passion. When the car hit a bump, my body shifted, and I felt Noah's breath against my neck, warm, steady, and dangerously close. My pulse quickened. Heat rushed to my cheeks. I forced a laugh, brittle and thin. "Your dad really needs a bigger car, huh?" Noah gave a low chuckle, deep and restrained, as if he was holding back something. Yeah. Not exactly family-friendly. He was nothing like his father. He had Ethan's sharp jawline but none of his coldness. His green eyes were piercing, attentive, the kind that made you feel seen. I shifted, trying to put distance between us, but the cramped back seat mocked my attempts. Ethan didn't notice a thing. He never did. By the time we reached our glass-walled house perched on the cliffs of San Diego, my nerves were shot. Ethan disappeared into his office without a word, leaving me in the kitchen, hands pressed to the cool marble counter. But Noah's closeness lingered, the memory of his breath, the sound of his laugh, the feeling of being noticed in a way I hadn't in years. I told myself it was nothing. A moment born of circumstance. But deep down, something inside me had shifted. The next morning, I saw him on the deck, shirtless, sipping coffee. The early light caught the contours of his shoulders. Guilt tugged at me for staring, but when he turned and caught my gaze, I froze. He didn't look away. His eyes didn't judge or flirt, they simply saw me. And that was enough to set my heart racing. Meanwhile, Ethan came home later and later. His kisses were absent, his touch mechanical. His glass of bourbon replaced any conversation we might have had. The gap between us grew wider, while the tension between Noah and me simmered silently. He started lingering in the kitchen while I cooked, offering to help chop vegetables or dry dishes. Our conversations, once surface level, drifted into deeper waters, movies, music, dreams we'd both shelved away. I found myself laughing again, smiling in ways I hadn't in years. I began dressing differently too, silk instead of cotton, a touch of perfume I hadn't worn in forever. I told myself it was for me. But I knew. He noticed. One evening, while Ethan was shouting into his phone, I was kneeling in the garden, pulling weeds. Noah joined me. Our hands brushed in the dirt, an accidental touch. But neither of us pulled away quickly. When our eyes met, the air thickened with unspoken words. I recognized the look, the one that used to precede kisses in my youth. My stomach twisted with guilt, not because anything had happened, but because I didn't want it to stop. That night, lying awake beside Ethan's snoring body, I realized just how much danger I was in. Not danger from Noah, but from myself, from this hunger to feel alive again. The turning point came when Ethan left for a business trip to Chicago. The house was quiet, too quiet. I sat at the kitchen table with a mug of chamomile tea, loneliness pressing down on me like a weight. Noah walked in, fresh from a shower, his hoodie unzipped, his hair damp. "You okay?" he asked, Voice gentle. I don't know, I admitted, my voice cracking. It was the most honest thing I'd said in years. I poured out my heart, not about him, but about my marriage, the emptiness, the way I'd become invisible. He didn't interrupt. He didn't judge. He just listened. When he reached for my hand, it wasn't seductive. It was grounding. But the warmth that shot through me was undeniable. When our lips finally met, it wasn't reckless passion. It was tentative. Careful. A question more than a declaration. The touches that followed weren't rushed. They were slow, deliberate, as though both of us were afraid of breaking something fragile. That night unraveled years of silence and neglect. And yet, the days after were harder. Noah grew distant, cautious. We didn't speak of what happened, but the air was charged, heavier than before. I smiled through dinners, nodded at Ethan's empty conversations, but inside, I was unraveling. Then one morning, Noah was gone. His room was tidy. No note. No goodbye. He'd gone back to campus early, Ethan said. I sat on the deck, staring at the ocean, waiting for something, a text, a sign, anything. But nothing came. The world moved on. But I didn't. I was left with the weight of what I'd done, the ache of what I couldn't keep, and the haunting truth that sometimes one stolen moment can change your life forever. If this story stirred something in you, know this: you're not alone. Life, love, and marriage are complicated. Sometimes, the hardest truths are the ones we don't dare to say out loud. Tell me, what would you have done in my shoes? Subscribe, join this community, and let's keep talking about the stories most people are too afraid to tell.